Hello everybody and welcome to the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship EU here in Season 3, and it's round 2 here from Spa. After a great first round at Le Mans, it was R.A.W.S who had his day on that occasion. 2 wins out of the 2 races. Is anybody going to topple him today? We stay in the northern part of the main part of Europe in Spa-Francorchamps here and just over the border in Belgium. In the Ardennes Forest, of course, and it's going to be a great race today. A possibly overused circuit, some would say, but that doesn't mean that it's not a good one, of course. A real fan favourite, a real driver favourite as well. And we hope that the 46 cars that are on the grid here today will provide that action for us. My name's Ian O'Leary. I'll be alongside Zach Sweeney for this race here today, and I apologise I wasn't with you for last week's race, Zach, but it seems that you had a very good time without me. The Le Mans race was, and the Le Mans races, multiple, were very entertaining indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure alongside Bryn, but yeah, I have to say, did miss you just a little bit, Ewan. Glad you're back. No discredit to Bryn, of course. He's a lovely fella, but no, absolutely looking forward to Spa because, well, Le Mans certainly got the season off to a fantastic start, of course, with Road America. We had a great pre-season, and then Le Mans, lived up to those expectations that we came in, and I've got completely the same amount of high hopes for Spa. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yes, we do have high hopes, of course. 21 degrees out there on the track at the moment. That is what we're looking at in terms of the first race here as well. In case you're not familiar with the format, there's a shorter race coming up first and then a bit of a longer one after the grids have been reversed here a little bit later on. Let's talk about those championships then, shall we? Because we have mentioned that R.A.W.S took 2 wins out of 2 in the pro category and overall throughout Le Mans. But what about those in behind? Well, it was certainly a bit of an RSR domination, RSR knockout from everybody in that particular event. Sean Campbell is in second in the EU standings, as he is in the US standings. You'll see a little bit later on as well. Oscar Copas third. The top 3 of those, all RSR drivers, followed by the Olympus Esports driver of Thomas Cope and R.A.W.S, who is up there in both championships, both EU and US. RSR really did get off to possibly the dream start for this championship 1 week ago.
Yeah, honestly, couldn't fault them at all. They were so dominant. Of course, we saw the likes of Campbell and Copa at Le Mans just work together. They could. They as a team, just worked together in, third and fourth, and I think it was second and third in race 2 as well. They just carved their way through the field, and that's really important to have that support from a teammate, and it really has paid off because RSR had a fantastic day in the office, and, well, they seem to be the favourites. Of course, it's only round 2. It's a 10-round championship. Can't say anything of certain yet, but they're certainly doing themselves a world of favours.
Let's have a look as well at the AM standings. Now, this is close. Only 1 point separates Simon Dodd and Ivo Linden at the stage at the moment. Then we've got Jeremy Dubova only 10 points behind. He's tied with Dean Timms. Matthew Green is there. Navarro Dubova as well. Diedid de Vlaming. James Costa. Ashraf El Haddad. All there. All within 13 points. The AM standings are going to be very, very interesting to watch indeed. I think the most interesting thing to me is the fact that Simon Dodd in that last race, in that last event, finished in 8th place in the first race and only 3rd in the second. But that has got in the championship lead. That is how crazy the first event was at Le Mans in the AM standings. A lot more all over the place and a lot more unpredictable than the pro standings. There's no doubt about that. Seems that we might have lost Zach. He's having some mic issues here today, so we'll try and get back with him in a couple of moments' time. But he has having a couple of problems with the old microphone at this stage. We're waiting for the green flag, which is coming up shortly here in this race here today. Very soon, actually. We're expecting that gridding procedure to begin very soon. Paul Busby will be taking the pole position in the overall and indeed the pro standings as well. So we'll be looking out for him to lead the field away here at this circuit. Presuming it's going to, and that gridding process is indeed going to start right now. We're going to look at the grid. It's going to be Paul Busby who's going to be on that front row alongside R.A.W.S in the overall order. These are separated out by class, but some of them aren't quite put in the right place, so do forgive us. We'll get that right as the day goes on. R.A.W.S and Albin Kjellberg will be on the second row together with Sean Campbell rounding out the top 5. Dion Phillips will be 6th ahead of Yuri Matchison in 7th. Even Bass alongside him in the Ford. Then it's Thomas Dandridge and Stuart Reynolds rounding out the top 10. Oscar Coper and Daniel Taylor will be next ahead of Christian Furs and Thomas Reiter. Thomas Coper, lowly 15th for him, I'm afraid. Chris Chatterton 16th ahead of Peter Johannesson. Then it's Taylor Lane in 18th. Felix Pearl and Liam Ahern round out your top 20. Then it's Jonas Dreyer and Michael Patterman rounding out the 11th row of the grid. James Costa is next ahead of Timo van der Broek. Dean Timms is in the 25th position ahead of Ivo Linden. Then it is Simon Dodd and Stefan Schuster on the 14th row of the grid. Diede de Vlamink and Werner S round out your top 30, and we've still got a lot of cars to go. David Camano is next ahead of Jeremy De Boer. Thomas Pugh is 33rd ahead of Dirk Bout. Timo McKeown rounds out the top 35 with Ashraf El Haddad rounding out your 36th position on the grid. Gus Franken is next ahead of Jarmo Stastamoinen. Then it's Vladimir Halibay. Dominic Goodsell is in the 42nd. Victor Chomoro and James Slates will be in between them. Navarro de Bova, a lowly 45th for him, I'm afraid, ahead of Jorge Ferrer. Then it is Matthew Green in the 45th position. Jamie Scott in 46th. And Gert Ho Jensen rounding out to a 47 car grid here for this race. It's an absolutely whopping grid for this particular race, and that is an exciting prospect heading forward towards this race. We're coming up towards the final corner now. We're coming up towards La Source for the very first time here in this race, and Paul Busby is going to be in control of the field. But are we going to have to wait until we get out of La Source before we go green? We are indeed. We'll be taking the green flag around the corner there, and on the run down towards R.A.W.S, the field split, of course, by Pro and AM cars. 22 Pros, 25 AMs. We'll try and keep tabs on both of those throughout this very frantic and very frightening opening first race, which is very, very short in terms of its length indeed. Running up towards the line now, the green flag is going to be in the air, and Paul Busby is going to have car lengths over the field by the looks of things as he runs up towards R.A.W.S. It's side by side with Harry Wills and Alex Urenga up through this famous section of corners for the very first time of asking. They get through nice and cleanly though. Busby with a nice lead. Where's Kjellberg going to go? He goes on the outside line there in the Mercedes, you can see. Sean Campbell's going to try and get involved in the Lamborghini. He's going to try and push his RSR teammate Alex Urenga, but he's going to lose out by looks of things, this Urenga. He drops to at least third. Kjellberg is on his outside at the moment trying to regain that place. He won't be able to. It's going to be Urenga in that third position, Kjellberg fourth, and then it's going to be Sean Campbell in the fifth position with Dion Phillips in that sixth place, just holding on to where he was in that opening few moments. Further back, of course, we've got Timmy van der Broek in that position in the AM cars. He's alongside Ivo Linden in that position at the moment. They all single file themselves out and arguably are a little bit more sensible than some of those we've seen in the opening moments of that pro race, going side by side up through R.A.W.S. is not always the best idea. In AM, it's a little bit more single file. That's Dean Timms on the outside. Excuse me, that is Van der Broek getting on the outside. James Costa, who was pole position in that one. Costa is on the inside there on the BMW. You can see he's going to hold on to second place. Van der Broek is going to be, and he's going to get contact. Is James Costa out over the corner? Not entirely sure where he's going to end up after all of that, after that big trip across the corner there, Zach, into Lecombe. It's only a slight bit of contact, but it's had big consequences for James Costa, the pole sitter in AM, already well down.
Yeah, just unfortunate things going on in AM, and of course you can't. It's the finest of margins really when it comes to these GT3s. All it takes is the slightest bit of contact and around you go, especially when you're going in at that speed into Lecombe, one of the heaviest braking zones, of course, on the circuit. And as you're going in, if you get a slight tap, you are just very much going straight. And that is a shame for Costa, who did get off to a pretty good start. And of course, from pole position, you hope things go perfect as a driver. You like, fingers crossed, I've done the hard work, it's qualifying, I've definitely got the pace. You have an expectation that you're going to do well in this race, but unfortunately that is not the case so far for Costa. But it's not all over, got the pace. Race 2 is coming up. That's the thing that we cannot forget, is that even though race 1 doesn't go your way, you've always got race 2 to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a 50-minute race, double the length of this race, and it will require a pit stop, but the Pro and AM cars will be reversed in terms of their order. They won't have the AM starting in front of the Pros. That would be a little bit ludicrous, but we are reversing the order of the individual classes, which is going to be good to see, and it is going to be an exciting second race. Van der Broek going to try and make sure he's going to be starting on the pole. Oh, as Werner S goes for a big accident. And there's another one with a Porsche as well going for a big accident, and one of the Mercedes, one of the Ferraris also having to avoid a BMW off into the grass. Absolute chaos at Blanchimont. Not entirely sure how that all kicked off. I think it was Werner S completely on his own. We're going to ride on board with him here. It's a really fast and difficult corner. No rear end grip at all there in the Audi, and this is a sickening impact. Thankfully didn't get collected by anybody. You're going to see there another Porsche having a very similar crash, but thankfully pretty much everybody is avoided.
Blimey, that was very close to disaster. That could have been a lot worse than it was. That was probably the luckiest we could have been in an unlucky situation there, because yeah, that is dangerous. Blanchimont, one of the fastest corners on the circuit. Really is barely a corner nowadays, but if you get it slightly wrong, we saw there the massive implications that it can have, and just everyone coming through. Of course, Werner S was, you know, mid-pack towards the front of that GT AM class, and as soon as you go around, you've just got that swarm of people behind you that are ready to try and capitalise off something. They see the yellow flags, they're like, okay, this just means that we can gain a couple of places here, and you know, 9 times out of 10 they're not going to slow down, and yeah, that is just how easy it can be. And even if one person slows down, everyone behind, it's just that concertina effect that could have made it a lot worse. But fortunately, we don't need to worry about those consequences because they didn't happen, and it just seems to be the vast minority of people that were affected, but it is still the Van der Broek that leads the way ahead of Dean Timms. But it is very close in the pros between Busby and Wills.
Thomas Cope has gone off at Blanchimont as well. It might well have been a single car incident, as Reynolds also goes around at the chicane. That is Stuart Reynolds there in the bus stop chicane. You might be able to see him in the background. This is absolute chaos coming over the line at the moment. All kinds of positions being changed. Going down towards La Source for the third time of asking, and it's no less chaotic than pretty much the first time that we had here in this race today. Out and up towards Eau Rouge. Let's see what happened. There's Cope in the background. He did actually have contact with somebody. This is what happened with the likes of Dion Phillips, though. I think that's Ethan Bass just in front of him. Phillips gets turned around by one of the Lamborghinis, who also gets turned around. I think that was Reynolds who tapped Phillips into the spin, and then there was all a manner of contact. Once again, that concertina effect you mentioned there has caused a lot of damage to a lot of cars.
Yeah, indeed. So we can see Thomas Reuter having to defend from Patterman going through Les Combes. In fact, trying to get past Lane, going in towards Malmedy. This is for 15th. I think Busby and Wills are quite close as well towards the front. You can see Paul Busby certainly on the defensive, has got 3 cars, Wills, Urenga and Campbell in hot pursuit. Kjellberg as well just behind them. It could certainly turn into a 5-car train for the race lead, but Busby at the moment just trying to deal with the pressure, I think, and you can see Wills there running a little bit wide and allowing Alex Urenga to get onto the back of him. And in situations like this, it's just about staying composed, keeping to your lines, because the tiniest mistake can let all of those cars come through. Yeah,
it's a high pressure situation for Paul Busby to be in at this early stage in the race, it has to be said. Did a decent performance, I remember, at the media day, but wasn't there at Le Mans, or didn't pick up any points. I don't remember him being there. Yeah, he's starting up his championship charge right about now. This is Gus Franken already with damage, and one of the Lamborghinis just in front of him has already got damage as well. Plenty of cars have already been into the pit lane, and this is another one, the 33, making its way down onto pit lane. The long pit lane, by the way, which is going to be a factor in the second race. They have to go through the Grand Prix pit lane and then the endurance as well, as we go back to the leaders. 5 for the lead at this stage, and they do seem to be a lot quicker than the rest, because if we see that battle for maybe 7th on back, 8th on backwards, it is complete carnage back there. You'll be able to see them just in the background there. It's very, very close, and here it all is.
Yeah, you can see Christian Fers and Taylor going side by side, the fight for the last of the top 10. I think there you can see Fers trying to go the long way around, and it's just that thing of everyone behind again is going to try and bully their way through. It's very, very close, and the good thing for the top 5 is they've managed to get away from this, is they're not being botched up behind the likes of potentially some of the slightly slower guys, and getting caught up crucially in this very hard battle. As we see side by side, Busby, Urenga and Wills, they try and battle their way through down to the column. You can see Urenga going to try and go for 2 cars in one corner around the outside of Les Combes. Beautifully done from the Lamborghini. Busby really did not expect that one to be coming. Tried to defend to the inside, and Urenga was like, I'm going to go this way around. And now it's all going to try and kick off because Busby wants that place back, and Wills wants to make amends because he feels that he was mugged off there.
Well, how has that happened there? Busby was so slow in a straight line, but I'm not entirely sure quite how. I wonder if well, it's not. He didn't slow down enough to get a slowdown there, so not entirely sure. Either way, right round the outside of Les Combes. That was very impressive indeed, and he takes the lead, does Urenga, in that RSR Lamborghini. So yeah, fair play to him for that one. Making that way all the way around the outside. Still a long way for him to hold on to this one, and with the slipstream, with the way this circuit is, this race is going to stay very close right to the very end, as it probably is here as well. Timothy van der Broek and Dean Timms at the moment fighting 1 and 2 in the AM category, and they'll probably be fighting right till the very end over this, as the top 5 will be in pro as well. Dean Timms unmistakably the better of the two in terms of their opening performance at Le Mans. It was a good opening race from Timothy van der Broek, but getting that first race win, but didn't manage to score any points in the second race at all, which has sent him a long way down the order. And you do need to pick up points, especially in that second race, because there are more points available.
Absolutely, it's just about being able to carve your way through the field. If you finished race 1 towards the front, it's about trying to maintain position. If you finish race 2 towards the back, you can see side by side between Busby and Wills, bit of argy-bargy between the two as they go 2 by 2. Noah's Ark on the exit, Campbell and Matchison, and Kjellberg as well trying to get involved. Matchison a little bit further back, but just look at this massive gaggle of cars, 3 abreast on the run in towards Les Combes, potentially even Le Source, potentially. You can see it's just all kicking off, everyone trying to fight for those higher up positions. And it's that pressure and that desperation that then starts to make these incidents creep in.
Contact there. Kjellberg was definitely the one that lost out, but Busby losing 3 places in basically 1 lap there. He was leading at the very start of it, and now he's down in 4th position. Not too much pressure from behind, but Harry Wills certainly has with his great rival Sean Campbell. They went toe-to-toe in the US series over a couple of races back at Le Mans there. It was a couple of very entertaining races indeed as well. But on this occasion, it looks like Campbell might just come out on top around the outside through the first part of Le Combes, give them the inside for the second part, and he will go through. By the way, these two are fighting pretty much over the US Championship in the pro category. Harry Wills leads that one by 1 point after the race at Le Mans. Their controversial incident at the final point, at the final part of race 2 in that event. The win stood for Harry Wills in the end, and so he will take that championship lead into the race a little bit later tonight. But Sean Campbell has come out on top in their battle for the moment, as we go back to the battle for the front of the AM class is the word I'm looking for. Less than 15 minutes to go in this run, and Dean Timms has been biding his time so far, so maybe now will be the opportunity for him. He's in the slipstream with that big BMW up in front. He's going to pull to the inside line of Les Combes, and this might be an easy move really. He's going to have his nose in front before the braking zone. Is he going to have it all his own way? It looks like it. He goes deep into the corner anyway, and I think there might have been contact there. Van der Broek wasn't willing to really give up, but he had to in the end. He drops to second. I have to say, Ivo Linden's done a very good job in that 3rd place to really close on both of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely doing a fantastic job just capitalising off the slight battle they had in front. And Alex Urenga, give him a bit of clean air and he will absolutely fly. These guys are making the mistake of battling Sean Campbell, having to go defensive because you've got Harry Wills to his left-hand side as they approach the bus stop chicane. You can see the Mercedes trying to go the long way around, just sort of ran out of grip. And Sean Campbell just about managed to hang on. And now Busby wants to get involved and try and get himself onto the offensive to the left-hand side of his fellow Mercedes in towards La Source turn 1 once again. But Alex Urenga, give him some clean air, he will absolutely fly out in front. That is a mistake, I think, on those behind, because they need to work together just to stay in touch for the race lead.
I think it's already kind of gone here really. 1.7 seconds of a margin in the race. This sure is going to be a very difficult margin to bring back again, as Daniel Taylor looks like he's had a couple of problems here at Blanchimont. Oh, rear end going and smacking into the wall as well for one of the Audis. Oh, and a big hit. A teammate of that Audi in the background there smashing into Taylor as well.
Wow, David Christie, fantastic singing behind us. You, of course, at home won't hear that, but yeah, it's very much accurate indeed. Paul Busby and Harry Wills going side by side, just about. Wills managing to hang on side by side in towards Malmedy. As you can see, Busby still trying to put that pressure on, get himself back onto the podium places. Similar to Costa, the pole sitter really is falling back. in this pro class, and that is kind of unfortunate, but that just goes to show Spa it lends itself so well to overtaking, and of course this slipstream keeping everyone nice and close together just means that they can have these fights, and as soon as one goes through, everyone tries to bully their way through. But yeah, that was a massive incident. Once again, Blanchimont proven to be the difficult corner of the day.
A very tricky corner indeed. As Dean Tim's here, he's not got a 7.5 second lead. He's got probably much less than that. It's less than a second here to Van der Broek, but it looks like he's just been able to pull that little bit of a margin for the moment. So he'll be pretty pleased with that. But he does have to convert here and do the job. Far ahead of a lot of his rivals in this championship. Those drivers in front of him, like Jeremy de Bova, way down at this stage. Don't know where he is at this stage. It could be either of the de Bovas on the left-hand side, so we'll try and get to the bottom of it. It is the one in front, so he's getting a few points on him. Getting points on Ivo Linden, who's in second at the moment. Simon Dodd as well, who's in fourth, so might well take the championship lead with this particular move, or at least make it a lot closer. Alex Jarenga, though, certainly going to extend his lead with this one. You just can't give him this kind of margin, because he will absolutely just ram that one home, and that's exactly what he's doing at the moment. This battle for second as well is only helping him.
Absolutely, it just means that he can do his own thing, just out in front, just chill, put in the laps in and try and bring it home. And that's exactly what he did at Le Mans. That's exactly what he's trying to do here at Spa. Of course, isn't over until he reaches the checker flag. Of course, has got race 2 as well. But Alex Jarenga, he's proven himself to be one of those drivers that it doesn't matter what situation you put him in. Put him out in front, he'll fly off. Put him, in a pack, and he will be patient. He'll bide his time. He knows he's got the pace, so he just needs to wait for an open gap. Saw that he could get past Wills and Busby all in one. Did it, and hasn't really looked back since. And then those guys behind have made the mistake of fighting really hard, not playing the long game, thinking I'm going to fight for second as if it's the last lap, as opposed to maybe potentially trying to go for the race victory. And that has really just allowed Jarenga to fly away with it. Looking a little bit further back amongst the very tight, very close midfield, Ethan Bass still representing for that Ford GT, doing a remarkable job in it as well, well amongst the top 10. He's on the back of Copa and could well and truly get himself inside the top 7. But yeah, for a field largely dominated by the likes of BMW and Lamborghini, he's doing a fantastic job in that Ford GT. Thomas Reiter trying to get around the outside of the lane, and yeah, well, this midfield proving to be very close.
It is. It's tends to be the way. The leaders just get a little bit spread out, but the guys in the midfield do tend to fight a little bit harder over these positions. It does seem from time to time. Thomas Reiter trying to find his way through, and Taylor Lane at the moment it's a little bit further down to where you'd normally expect to see Thomas Reiter, I would have said, but either way, he seems to be fairly well matched by those around him at this stage, which is not great news for him. Through Pouon and up towards the Piff Puff chicane. He's even got some pressure from Johansson behind as well in that BMW, so he's going to really have his eyes looking everywhere right now, forwards and backwards. He's going to try to anyway, as he tries to make this move for 13th position in a bit of a BMW sandwich right now, but it doesn't really look very threatening. Certainly not as threatening as some others up and down the order, although it's a nice exit off the curve Paul Frere there, and slipstream is going to help him. Surely no move at Blanchimont, though. He's seen the demise of his teammate surely in the mirror there. That's the side-by-side battling behind. Sean Campbell and Harry Wills continue their battle from the US Championship, and they've carried it over to the EU one. Less than 10 minutes to go, about 5 laps to go, and these two continue to fight it out. Harry Wills, though, a long way round the outside at La Source. He's not going to be able to make that move. He's going to have to wait until Le Com.
Indeed, so he's got that long run, of course, through R.A.W.S and Radion. Should be around about flat out. And look at Harry Wills committing to the left-hand side. Through R.A.W.S and Radion, side by side. Great respect between the two of them. Campbell, all very close between the two as they then head up the crest of Radion through the Kemmel King. And Harry Wills retains that position. Now Busby is trying to capitalise off what has been some really tarnished momentum there for Campbell. Side by side go them two. Harry Wills having to defend, trying to break the slipstream, brings it back to the left. He's going to help out his Mercedes with a bit of slipstream. You can see Campbell late on the brakes. Busby not giving up at all, quickly becomes the inside, and they are still side by side, Ewan.
Yeah, that was a really nice move from Wills around the outside through R.A.W.S there to make his way through into second place again. And Sean Campbell, not a lot he could have done about that at all. He would just have to take his hat off really and regroup a little bit to try and get that second place back to himself. But yeah, that was a remarkable pass from Wills around the outside of R.A.W.S there to make his way through. A little bit further down, Oscar Copa is not quite doing quite as well as he did at Le Mans. He's down in 7th under a little bit of pressure from Ethan Bass, and Chris Chatterton under a little bit more pressure from Liam Ahern at the moment in this battle for 11th. But yeah, around the outside moves at R.A.W.S is not something you see very often, but we just have done there, and there is a reason why you don't see them very often, because they don't often work out very well, but that one certainly did, and it was spectacular.
Takes two to tango, and of course great respect between the both of them to keep it. This is the fight for P number 4 here in the AM category. Simon Dodd on the back of Vlaminec, and still side by side between Dobova and Schuster in towards Lake Com. You can see the Porsche just sends it around the outside, keeps that, oh actually doesn't, tries to get around the outside, had to tuck in behind, and this is Thomas Reiter, yet another driver falling victim to Spa-Francorchamps, and in towards R.A.W.S. Not entirely sure what happened. That rear wing is already bent, so it must have happened a little bit earlier on, but it doesn't help his case at all by taking a bit of a spin. And well, Spa, it always is going to be a tricky circuit, but yeah, it seems to claim a lot of victims today.
Yeah, Peter Johansson, one of them as well. My goodness, he had a good run through Blanchimont there, and he's going to maybe have a dive hit now. This might be the reason. He gets onto the grass. Ooh. He gets into the Audi. Thomas Reiter carried on because he didn't think that the damage was going to be bad enough for him to need a pit stop. Johansson realised immediately that he needed to go back to pit lane. He will get the points for this round, or for this race I should say, but he won't be able to go any further that you wouldn't imagine. Sean Campbell, a great run through R.A.W.S and Radion on that occasion. He should be almost through before Lecom by the looks of things, even though Harry Wills has got the inside line here. Campbell is going to be straight back through again. I don't think Wills is going to be able to defend here, because those RSR Lamborghinis are very strong on the outside here at Lecom, because it gives you the inside for the second part there as well. Nicely into second place, but you get the feeling this battle isn't done.
Hasn't been. The race raged on pretty much for the entire race. Campbell already having to go slightly defensive in towards R.A.W.S, just has to make sure he gets it stopped, hits his marks, and prevents the cutback from Harry Wills. And of course, don't forget about Busby just behind. Thomas Cope had a bit of an incident a little bit earlier on. Is he going to fall into another one? But that Lamborghini certainly has seen better days. Pulls himself into the pit lane, and understandably so, because that front damage, it's so easy for things to go drastically wrong here, because the thing about Spa is the smallest mistakes can, as we said a little bit earlier on, have the biggest of consequences.
Yeah, it's a very unforgiving track, even in its modern form, where, well, this isn't its most modern form. This, there were some updates made over the winter this year to that particular, or this particular circuit, so it's maybe less forgiving than this particular iteration of the circuit, but even so, it's one of the more forgiving circuits compared to its previous iterations, although it still takes absolutely no prisoners at all as Harry Wills closes in on Sean Campbell. Oh, he almost goes to the inside here at Blanchimont, and this is another brave move through a high-speed corner. Sean Campbell just backs off ever so slightly into the corner. Oh, he loses it, but he saves the car. That was a remarkable save. We've seen so many cars go off at that point so far in this race, but Sean Campbell had the car control there to just keep everything under balance again, and he lives to fight another day.
With a save like that, you kind of almost forget about the initial incident, the initial mistake, and well, that is a heart in the mouth moment. He has to recover from that, of course, just catch his breath more so than anything, recompose himself and get back into the fight. But yeah, fantastic move from Harry Wills, just knocked Campbell off his line a little bit, got onto the dirty side of the track, and that Lamborghini was almost about to loop ends on him. And yeah, fantastic reaction. Of course, a little bit further back, this is Stefan Schuster, who was fighting with Dobova a little bit earlier on, and another driver that has fallen victim. This is in towards Pouon again, a very tricky corner. You get a little bit wide, the weight shifts, and around you go, and he wasn't quite as fortunate as Campbell in saving that one.
Wow, didn't really look where he was going there in terms of getting back across the racetrack. One driver having to take avoiding action. He did rejoin safely. At least he's down to 15th position, and Sean Campbell is up to 3rd once again. Paul Busby loses out, but he might try and go back in front again here at Bruxelles. Is it going to be a dive? Well, the Lamborghini just cuts and goes across the nose there to make sure that move was not repeated. Here it is, Sean Campbell taking the inside line. Maybe Busby decided not to defend there because he knew how successful Campbell had been on the outside so far. However, it didn't really matter. Campbell was still able to make that move.
Inside outside doesn't really matter for Sean Campbell, and yeah, was able to get himself up into P3 and is going to try and continue that charge towards second place. Alex Urenga absolutely flying out in front, as we were saying a little bit earlier on. Give him the opportunity, he will run away with it, and that's exactly what he's been doing. 4.2, oh, spin for Phillips there through La Source. That's going to catch Costa out, and well, that is it's just going from bad to worse for our pole sitter, and yeah, that is rather unfortunate for the BMW as the Porsche goes through. Not entirely sure if that is for position. position, but yeah, that track position is certainly going to be lost. And that's that thing. He really was just a passenger of that one. He was at the mercy of Phillips to be able to get that stop. And, well, he was so close to the rear end of him that he really couldn't do much in that one.
This is for 29th overall. Costa trying to get through on James Slates and Victor Chamorro in the order at the moment. Costa is an AM driver on our pro standings at the moment. We just fixed that now. There we are. 15th position in the AM standings, 30th overall right now. Just involved in a bit of a battle with Stefan Schuster as well, who's gotten onto the back of these guys right now. Coming up towards the line though is Alex Urenga. He started another lap right now with just around about 2.5 minutes to go there, so 2 laps to go for everybody here, including Urenga, who's got nearly a 5-second lead, and he's cruising to a 3rd win in 3 races now. But what about Harry Wills, Sean Campbell and Paul Busby? Who knows in what order they're going to be finishing? Well, Paul Busby has made a bit of a mistake, and clearly it's just down to these two now.
Yeah, very quickly can turn into a 3-horse race into a 2, and you can see the run Sean Campbell gets off over Richard Randy on, already putting Harry Wills onto the defensive right-hand side. The Lamborghini going to go to the left. He's been successful both inside and outside of Les Combes. Is he going to be as successful this time around? Harry Wills does not want to give up that 2nd place. Sean Campbell late on the brake, soars around the outside of Les Combes to get himself up into 2nd place. But again, as we always say, this battle is going to be far from done, and Harry Wills at his earliest opportunity will try and get himself back into 2nd place. But yeah, that RSR Lamborghini is always going to try and put up a fantastic fight as Chamorro goes round in his heated battle with the Audi and the BMW. And, well, again, just an easy mistake to make onto that gravel, and tap, around he goes. Easily done.
So wide there, out in the gravel and into the wall. So Chamorro losing out quite drastically in that one, as Stuart Reynolds begins a bit of a recovery here. Probably had a bit of an incident in the bus stop chicane, I think with Dion Phillips. Phillips tried to cut across him and go to the apex at the 2nd part of the bus stop a little bit earlier on, yeah, tried to hold on to a place, but wasn't able to. Stuart Reynolds got involved in it all, and he drops down as Sean Campbell is coming under increasing pressure from Harry Wills. They're not even saving the battle for Les Combes anymore. Only they're just battling wherever they can. And here comes Wills on the outside line into Blanchemont. Campbell's going to have really bad memories of what happened here last lap around, and I think it's the sensible thing to do to just lift off. But he's got to be worried about that straight line speed of the Mercedes coming up towards the line here, because if it's the final lap and the positions are reversed, I still don't think Campbell's going to be able to hold on. Maybe he's thinking about that last minute lunge up the inside of the bus stop chicane.
Yeah, you've got to play the strategic game, and of course being in the best position on that final lap might just be actually being behind. It sounds a little bit backwards, but you have to have that slipstream, you have to have that advantage, because you do not want to be a sitting duck. We've seen from the likes of Sean Campbell and Harry Wills how powerful that slipstream slingshot is, and as they do go on to what is now the final lap here at Spa for race 1, he is going to be in that better position, or is he? Because he's got the slipstream down towards Les Combes. Is he going to be on the offensive? Does he want to get in front and try and break away? But yeah, that slipstream proven to be very difficult indeed. Bit of a mistake from Harry Wills, and it's sort of forced Campbell's hand here.
Well, he's almost been forced to go through. Let's see if he does in the end. Side by side, the two of them absolutely neck and neck. Pretty much nothing to choose between them down the straight here. Campbell on the inside line. Wills is going to try the late braking around the outside move, but it seems to be only that Sean Campbell can do it, although a bit of contact, a little bit of getting out of shape there for Campbell, and he drops back to 3rd again. All of it has allowed Paul Busby to get back here again.
Wow, it's very quickly once again can turn into a 2-horse race, 3, and well, with what is this, 2/3 of a lap, half a lap left to go. We still don't know who's going to finish second. Side by side, a little bit further back between Ethan Bass and Coper through Ravage. Alex Urenga sort of run away with a victory. You have to expect, if it's not a mistake, he will take the victory here for race 1. Make it 3 wins in 3 races. Harry Wills though seems to be hanging on, and for Campbell, he's having to look backwards and forwards. Could defending from Busby cost him P2 here?
Well, I don't think he's going to really have to defend until the bus stop chicane, where I think he's going to be doing a bit of the aggressing into the final corners of the race. Despite the fact we started and took the green flag on the run down towards R.A.W.S, we will be taking the checkered flag on the exit of the bus stop chicane and up towards La Source. So it's a bit of an earlier checkered flag than the green flag for whatever reason, but hopefully Campbell knows that, and hopefully he knows that the bus stop chicane really is going to be his final chance. He's not really as close as he'd like to be, and he knows that the Mercedes is very, very strong just up in front of him as well, so he's going to have his work cut out behind. But in front, Alex Urenga has cruised to another win here. It's going to be 3 out of 3 for the RSR driver. He really takes control of this championship early on. It's a flash of the headlights, and it's another win for Alex Urenga. Behind, it's not going to be an RSR 1-2. It's going to be Harry Wills who comes over the line in second position. Sean Campbell third, with George Boothby in that third position. A great fight between all three of those drivers, but for the second week in a row, Harry Wills finishes in second place in race 1.
Yeah, consistency is key, as they always say, as we wait for the last of the top 10 to come through, and the rest of the midfield, the rest of the GT3 Pro grid. And then, of course, it'll be Dean Timms that will take the win for the GT3 AMS. But yeah, consistency pays off for both Alex Urenga and Harry Wills. Fantastic race, though, for second, third, and fourth. And, well, just goes to show that race 2 could, well and truly, as it did at Le Mans, somehow manage to top that.
Yeah, absolutely. Timms, with this victory, by the way, going to pull himself to within 1 point of Simon Dodd, who should retain his championship lead here. So it's all getting very exciting in the AM category. But of course, a reverse grid race to come. Dean Timms makes his way through the final chicane now. And after 25 minutes, or more like 28 minutes, he's going to take the win here in AM. Vanderbroek is going to be second, ahead of Linden, then De Vlaeminck. And then it's Dodd rounding out the top 5. Not much to say, really, about the AM category. Not too many battles going on either. But yeah, it has closed our championship up nicely. And it's a real different look to the front of the field from what we saw in Le Mans. It's once again becoming a really unpredictable championship.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very interesting indeed. Of course, in Le Mans we had the Bova 1-2, and, well, they are, well, in 11th and at P21. So not the race for the father and son pairing of Navarro and Jeremy De Bova. And, well, that happens. That's motorsport for you at the home race. They would have hoped to get it off to a better start, but still got race 2. Still places to be decided as De Bova tries to at least get himself inside the top 20, as Dominic Goodsell in the Lamborghini will come home, I think, last of the GT3 AM finishers. And, well, that really was a fantastic race. And as you say, we get to flip it all on its head and go again for double the amount of time. And, well, fingers crossed, that should mean double the amount of action.
Well, let's see. That 15-minute race coming up a little bit later on. Alex Urenga takes the win, though, ahead of Harry Wills, Sean Campbell and Paul Busby. They were towards the front throughout the most part. Albin Kjellberg rounds out the top 5, with Yuri Mathiesen having a pretty lonely race in 6th. Jonas Dreyer was 7th, ahead of Christian Furs, Liam Ahern and Chris Chatterton rounded out your top 10, with Taylor Lane and Stuart Reynolds just outside of it. He got caught up with Dion Phillips early on in the race, so that's why they dropped so low down. Oscar Coper only 14th in that race, but watch out for him in the second run, because it is reverse grid, of course. Ethan Bass, the final car on the lead lap here in the pro category. Thomas Cope, Thomas Reiter, Thomas Dantridge all retiring from that one. Peter Johansson as well, Michael Patterman, Daniel Taylor and Felix Pearl all coming into trouble throughout that race here after 25 minutes there. And in the AM category, it was Dean Timms who took the win by about 3 seconds. Timothy Vanderbroek was in second place ahead of Ivo Linden. Diede de Vlaeminck was in fourth place ahead of Simon Dodd, just holding him off to the line. Dirk Boutz was sixth ahead of David Camino. Vladimir Herbay was eighth ahead of Jomo Stestermoinen. Really did get up the order during that race. Ashraf El Haddad was 10th ahead of Jeremy De Boyver. James Slates was only in 12th place ahead of Timo McKeown. James Costa fell to 14th after getting pole. Stefan Schuster only 15th as well for him. Kurt Hu Jensen went from the back of the field to 16th. Victor Chamorro, after hitting the wall, was 17th ahead of Jorge Ferrer. Then it was Thomas Pugh and Navarro De Boyver rounding out your top 20. Dominic Goodsell, the final driver, on the lead lap, with Jamie Stott just outside of that lead lap. Gus Franken, Werner Eisen and Matthew Green all had to come into the pit lane during that short race, where it's not particularly needed. So pit stop race coming up, Zach. Double the race distance as well coming up over the next 50 minutes. When that session goes up, we'll be jumping in for that one. But yeah, a decent first race to kick us off here at Spa.
Yeah, absolutely, and really cannot wait at all for race 2. And of course, as you say, that pit lane, the strategy is going to come into effect because of that long pit lane. You have to go through the Grand Prix and then through the endurance as well, which should throw a spanner into the works in terms of strategy. But yeah, absolutely cannot wait. Race 1, once again, living up to the expectations that we've got for the Race Anywhere World Series. And yeah, these GT3s just being a perfect mix. These drivers giving each other plenty of mutual respect, and well, it just definitely gives us a fantastic show to watch.
Certainly does, and it's coming up here in a few moments' time. We're going to take a quick break here on the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship. When we return, the 50-minute second race will be coming right up.
Mac Whopper. to start the battle.
Welcome back to the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship here in Season 3. It's the EU version, of course, and we've already had our first race of the evening taken out by R.A.W.S in the overall and pro category, Dean Timms in the AMs, but they are about to start at the very back of this field because, of course, it is the reverse grid. R.A.W.S has extended his championship lead due to that to 16 points now, which doesn't sound like a lot, but with this point system, it certainly is. The second place for R.A.W.S there has got him up to third place in those pro standings. In the AM standings as well, things have got even closer. Only 4 points now separate the top three positions. Dean Timms getting himself into that third place. Eva Linden now taking the lead of those standings. That's what it looked like before we ended up doing that race a few moments ago. Reverse grids though, Zach, always very exciting indeed. It's always a case of getting your way through those opening laps, picking your way through the traffic well, and some drivers definitely did that better than others last week.
Absolutely, looking to, of course, cliche, the likes of R.A.W.S, who did that to absolute perfection, was just one of those dark horses that just managed to carve his way through the field. Playing the patient game is the most important thing, really. You can be as aggressive, you can be as quick as you like, but if you get caught up on an instant on lap one because you're at the back of the grid or you're tangled up in an instant, you aren't going to be doing very well in that race. So it is just, it will separate the good from the great. Just being patient, biding your time, waiting for those opportunities to come through, because you've got time. You've got 50 minutes to make these moves. You don't need to try and win the race on lap one.
No, it's not a great idea. We're going to be going through the grid very briskly because there's quite a lot of these drivers. It's going to be Thomas Dandridge who's going to start on the pole position ahead of Thomas Reiter, then Thomas Cope and Ethan Bass. On the second row, Oscar Cope is going to be one to watch from fifth. Dion Phillips and Stuart Reynolds will be near each other again after they came into contact during the first race. Taylor Lane, Chris Titterton and Liam Ahern will round out your top 10 with Christian Furs and Jonas Dreyer on the next row together. Yuri Magnussen and Albin Schellberg will share row 7. Then Paul Busby pole from the first race. He'll start 15th for this one, ahead of Sean Campbell, R.A.W.S and R.A.W.S, who'll be near the back. He'll be ahead, though, of Michael Patterman, Daniel Taylor and Felix Pearl, who didn't get to benefit from the reverse grid in that first race. Matthew Green will be on pole for the AM cars, ahead of Werner S, who had that big accident during his race. Gus Franco will be third, ahead of Jamie Stott. Then Dominic Goodsell running up the top 5. Navarro de Boivo will be one to watch on home soil, ahead of Thomas Pugh and Jorge Ferrer on the fourth row of the AM grid. Chamorro will be in the 9th position, just ahead of Jensen in that place as well as the cars begin to roll off. We're scrolling down quicker than I can read, so we're going to just scroll down and you can read them yourself. So there you are. Sorry about that. But we'll try and get everybody on camera. There we are. Rolling towards the start then, Zach. They've got a bit of time to wait before that run down towards R.A.W.S, but it's going to be a case of getting through Les Combes particularly and hoping that there's not a big accident at the top of Radion when you get there.
Of course, we saw the likes of Costa in race 1 get slightly tapped going into the braking zone of Les Combes. Well, because you've got that long slipstream all the way through Upper Rouge, Upper Radion, and down the Camel Straight. Everyone's benefiting off that slipstream. Everyone's very close together. Large grids in both the Pro and the AM, and then going to slam them on the anchors in towards Les Combes. People are trying to make up moves, trying to capitalise off the race start, and yeah, it really is a breeding ground for disaster. So yeah, just got to keep your nose clean and, well, playing the patient game. Chances are people are going to mess it up. So if you could just stay back and wait a little bit, you might actually, capitalise and gain a few.
Absolutely. So there will be a few doing that, especially back in the pack. It's, in my opinion, a bit more difficult to make your way through the opening laps here than it was at Le Mans, which is such a wide open straights and so on, where you can actually make a difference so early on, as so many did throughout the race twos that we had, both in EU and US divisions. We're making our way down towards the line, though. It's a downhill run towards R.A.W.S, and let's hope that everybody gets through there cleanly. It's going to be Thomas Dandridge versus Thomas Reiter on the front row together. Dandridge waiting a long time in the Mercedes there to get going, but finally does, and he makes a good jump for it. Reiter will hold off Thomas Cope for second by the looks of things, although it is very close as they run up the hill for the first time. A little bit more single file than it was in the first race a few moments ago. Although in the background that was off the road for Kjellberg, nearly finding himself in the barriers on the exit of Radion. Those are the guys we're expecting to be up towards the front by the end of the 50 minutes, but they've got to make their way through this first, side by side for everybody into the first couple of corners. But it's nice and clean, single file almost for a lot of the pro cars up in front, side by side behind, as we see in the AM cars. The AM drivers behind, Matthew Green with a great start there, Werner Ace also. It's a lot more spaced out back here, although side by side back in the midfield and towards the back as well, it will be pandemonium as the front drivers try and get their way back to the front.
Yeah, absolutely. Seems to be a really clean start, but you can see side by side, as we were going to be expecting down in towards Lake Com, as a couple of drivers try and get themselves just up a couple of places. You can definitely gain a couple of places off the start. It's your best opportunity to do so because everyone's so close together, but it is still Dandridge that leads the way. I think it's still Thomas 1, 2, 3, and all off into the barrier. Big crash there for BMW. Luckily has managed to stay off the track and hasn't been collected by everyone else, but that is still a huge off. And a really unfortunate way to start this race.
Yeah, it was Taylor Lane out of poo on there, having a huge accident. Not entirely sure if it was assisted or not. Couldn't quite tell from the angle that we saw it from. But either way, he certainly did go off in quite a big way. Meanwhile, back at the front, Dandridge having a much better time of things in this particular one. Guys at the back trying to get their way forward. Campbell's probably done the best job so far. Urenga hasn't really gone anywhere in this one. Still down his 70th. Christian Furs has been off at Blanchimont, and they all scatter to avoid. Oh, it's chaos. Paul Busby and also Kjellberg is off the road for one of the RSL Lamborghinis as well. Harry Wills goes sliding straight into the side of Manchester as well, by the looks of things. I think that was it Liam Ahern, quite possibly. It might well have been the car upside down. Paul Busby is upside down after coming into contact with Kjellberg, and Christian Furs was the first driver off. That will take some picking apart, as will Taylor Lane's crash, but already 5 drivers into the pit lane after not even completing one lap.
What a hectic run in towards the bus stop chicane. A huge crash. Going to take yet another look at this. Is in the AM. This is Simon Dodd trying to avoid incidents, and unfortunately got tagged with the BMW. Slid itself across the track and collected a good few other people as well. So calamity and carnage amongst both categories. Going to take a look as you can just see everyone just getting involved. There are a good few. Harry Walsh trying to avoid it. The 88 of Paul Busby sent flying into the air, spinning back onto the circuit. The RSI Lamborghini, I think, then tags it again and sends him flying just a little bit more. But that is just, wow, what a humongous crash. What a way to start this race. And yeah, you have to say that is probably going to be his race over for Paul Busby. And wow, fair enough for those people that got through, but that just so many incidents going on there. It's so tricky to judge, and so many drivers getting involved.
Yeah, I mean, we do need to pick it up a little bit at this assignment. Dodd getting his way back to the pit lane. We need to pick it up a little bit early to try and see really what happened there. Christian Furs was the one really off the road there in that one. He was the one who spanned first, and then everybody else clattering in. Unfortunately, not a lot of them using the brakes on that occasion. I know that when you're on the grass, it's a different situation, as we saw with Harry Wills there sliding straight into the side of one of the other Mercedes. But yeah, this is Simon Dodd a lot earlier. We've already seen this accident for him. Timothy Vanderbroek trying to get himself through all of this as well. I think he just about did. But either way, just a lot of people not really paying much attention early on in this race. That's the aftermath. John Campbell taking to the grass to try and avoid it all, and we'll probably have had a bit of a slowdown afterwards. But yeah, this is very much the aftermath of the accident. It really has shaped this race so far. Campbell there with the slowdown penalty. Maybe a bit of suspension now as well. It didn't quite look right, but either way, I think he's all good in the end. This is Felix Pearl making his way through the order, and this is what you're supposed to do: just pick your way and get on the brakes. But not many people did that. It was just a lot of chaos there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we come back to the live action as Dandridge and Cope now lead the way after, well, all of that. Just absolute calamity. But yeah, it is just, I think, I don't want to say careless driving, but in a sense it really is. As you can see, the speed that Cope has down this Camel Straight, putting some pressure on Thomas Dandridge. Looking to the right-hand side, Dandridge covers it off. You can see the Lamborghini making a late switch to the left-hand side. It's going to be the long way round to Lake Com. How late can he be on the brakes? Very late for Dandridge to try and maintain the race lead. And oh, he spun round! He goes round. Cope very marginally nearly hits that Mercedes, and that is such a big mistake. He was very desperate, very late on the brakes as Cope soared around his outside, and, well, once again, more calamity amongst the pros.
Yeah, there it is. Dandridge just getting things wrong on his own, really. It was a nice move from Thomas Cope, but then it was, yeah, just really out of shape. He got out of shape for the first bit, and then the second part was all going wrong from there. Oscar Coper had to avoid, as you say, narrowly did so, but did lose a place to Dion Phillips in that battle for second, and Reynolds got through as well. Stuart Reynolds also managed to get his way through as a result of that. And just seeing in the background here, though, Sean Campbell and Alex Urenga making their way through. They managed to clear the accident there a lot quicker than everybody else. I have to say, the way this race is shaping up early on, I know what Coper didn't have great pace in that first part of the race here earlier on. However, it's looking like an RSR 1-2-3 might be possible again.
Potentially so. Alex Urenga and Sean Campbell cutting their way through the field as we see a fight in the GT3, and this between Goodsell and Franken for second place. As yeah, well, hopefully the AMs can have a bit more action in race 2 than they had in race 1, but Matthew Green absolutely flying out in front. 4.2 seconds already clear of the rest of the field. Of course, as we wait for the faster guys to potentially come through, that's then when that gap can close. As we see Chamorro, who ended race 1 in, well, interesting fashion, is trying to make amends for race 2. But yeah, certainly could eye itself up amongst the pros for well, a pretty cliche finish, it must be said. But here comes Chamorro, though, trying to get himself up a place. Chatterton and Campbell going side by side in towards Les Source, and, well, Urenga trying to try and use his teammate as a bit of a battering ram to carve his way through the field.
Urenga just trying to follow his teammate through, although Chatterton's still giving him a bit of trouble here. He was through the pit past chicane actually on the previous lap as well. So, oh dear, as Urenga was very close to the back of the Audi there, was scared of going into the back of it and causing a big accident, so just cut across the chicane, and he'll have to serve a slow down. He had to cut across at Rally on there. He slows down massively as Dion Phillips holds on to second place here ahead of Oscar Coper. Is there any, is there even, oh yeah, there is, sorry. I didn't think there was a bonnet on that car briefly there, but there is. He holds on to second place, though, allowing Thomas Cope to get away a little bit. Chatterton and Campbell continues to battle behind. They never really stopped. Well, they haven't really stopped, I should say, throughout this race so far. The Audi on the outside line trying to regain that sixth place, but finally now it looks like he's going to have to yield, and Alex Urenga's going to have to make his way through these guys on his own.
Absolutely, he's, well, Campbell is just doing a fantastic job, and if he has got some suspension damage from that bit of a crash a couple of laps ago, he's certainly nursing it very well. Side by side between Chamorro and De Boiver in towards Lake Com. Fantastic move there from the Mercedes just to sail around the outside. As you can see, the number 4 going to try and come back. De Boiver had to back out of it through Malmedy. And this is a replay of how he managed to get this move done. You can see Victor Chamorro on the outside, just late on the brakes. He's got more track to use on the outside. The outside quickly becomes the inside. As long as he gets it stopped, pretty surefire way of getting yourself up a place. But yeah, fantastic racing up and down the field. And while it has been chaos and carnage, it's equally had some pretty good fights to get this race going.
Oh dear, this is Timothy Vanderbroek, and this is exactly what happened at Le Mans. Didn't really have a very good race too, despite winning the first race. Now I know he didn't win here either in that first race. However, he did put on a decent performance, at least for the first part. It's not very many points to his name. I don't know if I'm misremembering something, or he dropped down the order without us knowing, or whatever. But either way, didn't score many points through race 1 either. Let's see as Alex Urenga tries to make his way through here on Chatterton and Matchison battling in front of him. Not helpful when they're going side by side in front of him, but might be able to make it 3 wide, or indeed just push the Lamborghini through so that he can follow through. Let's see. Oh, he's going to maybe search for his own line down the inside here into La Source. A nice 3 wide move. A little bit of side to side contact, but nothing too bad at all. He makes his way through. Tighter line on the exit. He might well get steamrolled actually on the exit here in terms of up towards Lake Com, but at least for now he's got that place.
Absolutely great move there. It is risky making it 3 wide. You never really know how much space you're going to have, but it seems that Chatterton played the long game and just stuck it on the outside, backed off a little bit. Ethan Bash tried to get himself in front, and now Chatterton is going to try and get himself back past Matchison. Still, this fight rages on. Urenga having to go defensive, as you say, with that poorer run coming off of Lasource. Going defensive, manages to retain the inside line. You can see Chatterton trying to go back to the inside of Matchison, but unfortunately doesn't quite have the advantage in towards Lecom. Ethan Bass sitting back, still on the fringe of the top 10 in the 4GT, and potentially still has the opportunity to move forward. This is the battle for second. Thomas Cope is sort of running away with it just a little bit, 1.9, nearly 2 seconds clear of Dion Phillips, who has got Coper and Reynolds for company, and still podium fights both in Pro and Am, as Franken has Pugh for company.
Yeah, battle, this is for second at the moment. Dominic Goodsoe is in second. This is the battle for third, I should say. Gus Franken and Thomas Pugh fighting things out, as our dear Navarro de Boiva, I think that is slipping down the order at a vast rate at the moment. Is it at de Boiva or is it the other one? Don't know for the moment, but because there's no way of telling. But either way, one of them slipping down the order at the moment in the AM category. Dion Phillips tries to maybe make a few inroads on Thomas Cope on the front, but not really happening for him at the moment, which is a little bit surprising. But Sean Campbell is closing in on these guys right now, and they're really going to try and get away from him before that point. But with nearly 40 minutes to go, it's going to be hard to hold Campbell back, I feel, from a race win here, as Reynolds goes really off the road at Blanchemont there and loses a place.
Very easy to do, and of course Blanchemont has claimed a number of victims today already. But yeah, still, Navarro de Boiva going very wide through Poo on there, losing the place to Costa. That was great car control to keep that in check. We're going to see what happened a little bit earlier on. That is the 57 Mercedes, the 14 Porsche on the outside. Just, I think, trying to back out of it a little bit, getting a little bit overwhelmed by the cars around him. Very easy to do. Of course, it's so easy to just say, okay, I'm just going to back out of this, play it safe. And in doing so, in fact, can sometimes have bigger consequences than if you just stuck your nose in. But this is Schuster getting himself into P4 ahead of Pugh. But yeah, again, an unfortunate incident for the Bovas, who really aren't having the best of home races today.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to back out when there's someone right behind you there. Probably not the best idea. Just slam on the brakes so early on for the corner, but off the road for de Boiva, and yeah, very much a long road back for him. Dion Phillips defends from Oscar Coper. Battle between, well, actually, was it Matchison in fourth place? I don't really know. Somebody was in fourth place there, and has fallen down the order, which has opened a bit of a gap behind Coper. Wow, he's getting very bad. I don't know who was there, but I think it was Matchison anyway. That place. Reynolds was in that fourth place. Well. Oh yeah, okay, so I think Reynolds and... See, David Christie is not even commentating on this race, and he's got a better memory than me. Stuart Reynolds was in that fourth place. Jonas Drag did get through on him. That's opened a bit of a gap behind Costa Coper. I do know what's happening here. It's all going to close back up again, though, for second, you'd imagine, with Phillips still the cork in the bottle a little bit. Campbell and Urenga both very much catching up behind us. This is how Harry Reynolds made his way into the pit lane. Entirely sure if it was uneventful or not. It was in the end. He's repairing a bit of damage, and he'll be hoping that he can go to the end on this tank of fuel now.
Yeah, of course we are expecting a pit stop in this race. We have had for both races, both the press week and round one, so it should be no different for Spa. This is Oscar Coper on the back of Dion Phillips in that Ferrari towards the bus stop chicane. Really not interested in going for a move. You can see that lifting off, still putting some pressure on Phillips, who feels the need to go slightly defensive, and that just allows Coper to stay in touch, as Thomas Cope not branching away too much. That gap between himself and Phillips has remained at a sort of a stalemate at 1.9 seconds. So Coper maybe just saying to Phillips, come on, we could catch. If we can try and put some pressure on and make Cope have a mistake, we could close the gap. But it seems that Coper potentially, of course, RSR have been sort of a dominant force in this championship so far. Of course, we're not even completed the second round fully. But yeah, they certainly are the favourites. Coper seems to have the pace, but again, it's so easy to get dragged into a fight. We saw it in race 1 amongst the midfield. So easy to get dragged into a fight. You have to make sure you get these moves when they are going to be high percentage, and this might be Oscar Coper's opportunity with the slipstream. Dion Phillips going defensive, Coper looking to the left-hand side, but still isn't interested in going for the move. But they have got Dreyer, Reynolds and Campbell very close in check as well.
Certainly enough there, but he's pulled it up in time. Yeah, Coper was a bit of a strange back out, has to be said, but either way, he did so. Ethan Bass makes his way down the inside of Chris Chatterton, and will make his way through fairly easily in the end, up into 9th position in that Ford. And it's all staying very close, it has to be said. in Pro. We go way further back to the AM cars, and goodness, what's happened to Navarro de Boiva now? Battle with Timothy Vanderbroek. Oh, it's a wheel on the grass, and he'll be very thankful that he didn't collect anybody there. Very nearly did, but yeah, he'll be very thankful, as I say, that he didn't collect any other cars, because that is the danger with the bus stop chicane. Oh, and he's going side by side up the hill, and it wasn't going to work. El Haddad was the car he was alongside, I think, and there it is. El Haddad saves it, fortunately, and I don't know how that didn't really result in a bigger accident, but either way, they both carry on going.
Somehow neither of them hit the wall. When I take another look at it, you can see El Haddad on the left-hand side, up Radion, and I think that was more netcode than anything. I think iRacing expected there to be a bit of contact, and yeah, De Boiva was, you know, he gave him this. They both gave each other the space, but yeah, the danger of going through Origin Radion is you risk that, and that was close. Very, very close indeed with that Porsche as they bow their way through. But yeah, well said from El Haddad. That could have been a much worse incident for them, because you're going that speed through Origin Radion. This was James Slate in that Porsche just behind the two, and yeah, well, very, very close indeed.
He did actually a very good job actually here to avoid Lamborghini. Predicted where it was going to end up. I think El Haddad tried to actually get out of the way, which is the worst possible thing you can do in that situation. There's De Boiva off again through Pouhon. That car's damaged, that Porsche is badly damaged, and I'm afraid he is having quite a few incidents in quick succession here. It's not particularly great news for him. Either way, back up front to happier places. Dion Phillips is trying to hold back Cooper at the moment, and will probably be unsuccessful here by the looks of things. The Lamborghini's been probing for a little while now, but now finally may get the breakthrough up towards Lecombe. Not really having the legs here on the straight, though, it has to be said. Still going to have to do this all under braking. And into the corner, around the outside, it's hard to make that move. So, yeah, the Lamborghini with no real straight line speed there, and the Ferrari able to hold him off purely because of that.
Absolutely, and of course, still fighting a little bit further back amongst Reynolds and Campbell, as well as Urenga, who the two RSR guys wants to get onto the back of their or of their fellow teammate of Oscar Copa, fighting amongst the front guys. But yeah, Phillips, is so easy for him to just sort of, you know, brake a little bit later, claim the corner, because Copa's got the long way around. He's got more distance to cover, and if you get the brakes wrong, it's so easy for that car just to slide a little bit, and as soon as you slide, Phillips is on a much quicker line and can claim the corner. So you do have to be careful with where you do it, and how successful that can be. And of course, if you've got cars just behind as well, ready to pick up the pieces, also very easy for that to go wrong as well. But yeah, interesting enough that the likes of Reynolds and Campbell aren't closing up as much as we particularly would have expected. Of course, you favourited either Campbell or Urenga for a race win, but yeah, they certainly do need to get a move on if they want a chance to do that.
And they're not marching through the field at the pace that they were earlier, and I understand why, because the field is obviously a bit more spread out, but they're not, in terms of even lap times, they're not even pressing too much. Now finally they are on the back of this battle for second position. So they are gaining a little bit in those stakes as everybody wiggles through Blanchimont and saves it, fortunately. But now they finally will be making some moves. Campbell possibly trying to look down the inside as his teammate Copa looks to the outside of Phillips. Urenga and Campbell are even battling between themselves. It might have even been an exchange of position there, not entirely sure.
Potentially so. This is Navarro de Boiva having, well, just the worst of days. Fortunately for him, he's coming into the pits. Fortunately for him, his dad, Jeremy de Boiva, is having a little bit of a better day up in P5 in class. But yeah, still this battle between John Phillips and Oscar Copa rages on with Dreyer and Reynolds. Still just there, languishing. You can see that the menacing train just behind is there. So Oscar Copa, if he's going to get this move done, wants to get it done nice and quickly and can try and move on with his day. Dion Phillips looking in his mirrors, trying to go defensively. It's a bit of a gap to the right-hand side just to give the option to Oscar Copa to decide where he wants to go. But once again, Copa backing out. He can't do that for much longer because Dreyer and Reynolds, if he does that again, they certainly will try and hype their chances to the inside.
Oh, almost dismissing Thomas Cope as well a little bit here in this one. He's now got nearly a 3-second lead in this race almost because of the work that is being done by Dion Phillips. They're not exactly in the same team. Well, they're not at all. But it is helping out Thomas Cope. Here he is. Just getting away at the moment. He hasn't got 6 seconds. It's got about 3. But still, it's a gap worth having. Phillips is doing a decent job at holding everybody else back just for the moment. You get the feeling, though, once Urenga and Campbell get to the front of this group, and you do think that it's going to be a when, not if, that is all of a sudden going to become a lot easier. Of course, the pit stops as well are going to be very decisive here in this race. It is a lot easier, of course, to make moves when you're stationary and using those pit stops than it is on the circuit, as Campbell is finding out here along with R.A.W.S. That's R.A.W.S. in front, trying to make his way through around the outside of Reynolds, and he wasn't given all very much room. R.A.W.S. did make contact with that rear right wheel of Reynolds and off all by himself, so now it's Campbell's turn to have another go.
He's certainly going to eye up, of course, both of them in those RSR cars, so you can probably bet that Campbell's going to give Reynolds a bit of archie-barchie trying to get his way through. But yeah, both of them cannot afford little bits of contact like that, especially when they're trying to carve their way towards the front. Campbell very close to the rear end of Reynolds. Francorchamps, of course, had a bit of a moment in race one. You can see Reynolds going defensive, R.A.W.S. holding back to the left-hand side. It's going to be the long way around in the bus stop chicane. He's going to quickly turn into the inside, though, if he can keep his nose, and indeed does so. And now R.A.W.S. is going to try and get the better exit to also get himself past Reynolds. Unfortunately, can't quite do that. Can he capitalise and try and send one to the inside? In fact, no, it's going to be Reynolds right back up the inside of Sean Campbell to the inside of LaSource, and he's on the inside line, compromised line, bit of contact, and that's going to compromise his run. R.A.W.S. there to pick up the pieces and will surely have that run through R.A.W.S. and Radion, and indeed does so. But that little bit of a battling has lost them quite a bit of touch to those in front.
It has a little bit, but they should be able to gain that back a little bit with the pace. Reynolds might even have another go into Lecombe as well, but we'll see about that. Looks like Jeremy De Boyver, by the way, has made his way through the field quite nicely. He's got himself into 4th place. It's Gus Franken just in behind. You can see almost an RSR roadblock at the moment for Stuart Reynolds just in front of him. Alex R.A.W.S. has managed to stay in front of that fellow Lamborghini, but Sean Campbell has not, and he'll have to do all that work again as well.
He will have to indeed. Through Malmedy getting a better run, getting squeezed all the way to the right hand side as Reynolds very aggressively cuts his way through in towards Rivage, and off cambered corner, cannot really be affording to go around the outside, and yeah, Campbell just has to tuck in a bit of a flash of the headlights to say that was a little bit rude, mate, to be honest. But yeah, no, Campbell won't be happy with that one bit. Fortunately for R.A.W.S, he can push on and try and get after those in front, but yeah, Reynolds really not interested in giving up this place easy, which is to be a little bit surprising, to be honest. Of course, surely he'll know the pace of R.A.W.S and Campbell. Surely it might be better when they're racing in such a pack just to sort of use them to try and get onto the back of those in front, because Reynolds himself didn't at all really make much progress.
Not really. It's going a little bit slower at the moment than I thought as we approach half distance at this stage in the race. Not much happening here in the battle for 2nd place, but stuff happening back here apparently. James Slate's there just running wide through Blanchimont. Oh, and go very late on the brakes as well, and that's a little bit off the road there. He manages to that's down without having to completely cut the chicane. He goes wide through the 2nd part as well because of his compromised line. But either way, everybody able to continue without damage there. Sean Campbell tries to get through, and Stuart Reynolds here, we might pop out to the left-hand side here. There he is, down the inside. Reynolds will give him that little bit of room, but he's all too happy to do so because it gives him the inside for the 2nd part. However, pit stops are now upon us. Jonas Dreyer and Sean Campbell both in. Now for the next 10 minutes, this race is going to be all over the place as everybody tries to figure out where they are, and everybody makes their pit stop here for the only time in this race.
Yeah, absolutely, and well, of course we saw in Le Mans a wide range of the pit window, actually, a couple of laps actually, around a lap as long as Le Mans. It's yeah, it's surprising to see such a range. So of course with Spa being a little bit of a shorter circuit, you would expect maybe a little bit more range in that, and of course when we get to the end of the pit window we'll really see who potentially got it right, but that still doesn't change those that decide to stay out on the same lap each other. They're still fighting for track position as Dion Phillips once more having to look into his mirrors against Oscar Copa, who is still very much in hot pursuit. And Alex R.A.W.S, of course, is going to try and capitalise as best he can off this pit window. Potentially, maybe, I'm going to say try and stretch it as long as he possibly can. Of course, Alex R.A.W.S is lethal when it comes to clear air. He's going to want as much as that as possible. Coming in early, staying in the same group he was in isn't going to help him, so potentially that could be his saving grace to try and get himself up a couple more places.
Certainly could be. This is the battle for 7th place, it is now, with Ethan Bass, Chris Chadderton and Thomas Dandridge as well, who, don't forget, started on the front row today. His fellow front row starter Thomas Cope is still leading here, so he's going to be disappointed with the first portion of this race and how it's gone. But either way, he is where he is, and we're nearly halfway through this race now, approaching that pit stop phase, which is already really underway here in this one. Thomas Cope just getting himself towards the line again. We'll probably run it as long as he possibly can, given the fact he's out in the lead, but those who are in traffic a little bit might decide to come down pit lane a little bit early, like Thomas Coper, etc. Alex Urenga as well will probably try and do something on strategy as well, and the RSR guys will try and coordinate themselves. It is very helpful, the fact that the three of them are all up there, and they're all very much really up there in terms of the teams as well, leading the team's championship after the first couple of rounds by quite a big margin as well. They're definitely the team to beat so far.
The other ones that have set the benchmark, and well, as I said, we're only on round 2, race 2, only 4 races into what will be a 20 race championship. So yeah, it's still early days, but of course they've gotten their nose in early. They've set themselves up as best they can, and they've sort of made a name for themselves on this grid and doing a great job of maintaining that dominant status. But it does certainly help to have your teammates up there as a buffer. You can use them as sort of a roadblock, as a sort of a strategical buffer in that sense as well. But this is Dion Phillips once again under pressure from Oscar Coper, having a good offensive to the right hand side down the Camel Straight. As you can see, Oscar Coper wants to squeeze Dion Phillips all the way to the inside. Bit of wheeled door-to-door contact as they go down the Camel Straight. Late under brakes goes Coper, trying to go around the outside. This didn't work last time. Once again, a bit more argy-bargy between the two. Here comes Urenga to the inside of Phillips, and is just about going to potentially also put some pressure on Oscar Coper up in front to the inside of Rivage. As he got this one stopped, he's going to have to be very aggressive. Bit of contact still. That was very messy, but he managed to make it work.
Yeah, it was all very messy there. Two of them just driving into each other up the Camel Straight there, which was a bit bizarre. And Alex Urenga says thank you very much, and will make his way through on all of those drivers. Have a look at this. This is Oscar Coper driving straight into Dion Phillips, and then Dion Phillips doing it as well. Coper responds with another little bit of a tap there, and Phillips tries to go deep under brakes here to try and defend the place, but couldn't in the end. And then just got pushed offline there. Nothing really wrong with the actual bit in the corner, but the fact they were making that straight into a whole load of corners was a bit questionable. But anyway, they're all through. Alex Urenga is now into second place, and he'll try and run as long as possible. He'll try and run Thomas Cope down, and it remains to be seen whether he's got enough time remaining in this race to close that 5-second gap.
It's going to be tricky, of course. Cope hasn't at all seemed slow in this reverse grid race by any means. He's really taken this opportunity with 2 hands and is absolutely flying it out in front. But yeah, of course, Alex Urenga won the first race by around about 5 or 6 seconds, so that gap certainly can come down. It's all about the next few laps. He's going to be critical to get himself into that rhythm. Of course, that pit stop strategy could potentially throw a spanner into the works as well, but the key thing about Urenga is he's bringing Coper potentially with him onto the back of Cope, and that'll be Coper's sort of hope, I guess, is to stay behind Urenga, use him as the as I guess he's sort of the caravan towed onto the back of Alex Urenga, just to stay in touch and try and bring himself a little bit further forward. But yeah, I think if there's anyone on this grid that can close that gap, it will be Urenga, but yeah, it's certainly going to be a tough ask even for him.
That's what I like, these 2 RSR cars are just that little bit quicker than the rest at the minute. It's coming quite apparent as Phillips goes into the distance, and even might come under a bit of pressure from Stuart Reynolds in the background there. Maybe not this lap, but in future ones to come. Still 22 minutes to go here in this race, so still pit stops very much to be made for a lot of these front drivers. We'll see where the likes of Sean Cavill and Jonas Dreyer find themselves out after all of this, but Dreyer's already behind Campbell in this one. It wasn't done in the pit stops, I don't think. Only 3/4 of a second was saved there, but Campbell, I think, has made that overtake on the circuit, and now he's back in front into 13th place. But see where he ends up after all of these pit stops. I think he might well be 4th. I think he could jump Phillips and Reynolds here. He's just behind Reynolds, don't forget, just before he made that pit stop. So yeah, we'll see where he comes out after all of that, but still a long way till we get to that moment. See really who's going to win this race in pro. It's still very much hanging in the balance. Thomas Cope's slightly poorer first race, so it's certainly helping him here to a good starting position for this one, and get up the road here in the second race as Stuart Reynolds makes his way through, and Dion Phillips in the background, it looks like.
Yeah, well, of course, we were saying that it's never over. Race 1 isn't always going to be the deciding factor, and in fact, just keeping your head up and trying to set yourself up as best for race 2 as possible is still can be as good. Of course, consistency will pay off. It's better to finish 5th and 5th as opposed to last and first and all that malarkey. But yeah, he's still set himself up for a good result, and these points certainly will count over the course of the championship. And yeah, he is still, I think, actually slightly quicker than Alex Urenga, well, particularly on that last lap anyway. But we'll see how it racks up after this one. A 16.29 for Thomas Cope. We'll see Alex Urenga's time as he crosses it, and yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But was that Phillips going around a little bit further back?
Phillips is off somewhere. I don't know how he didn't see that. I don't know if I was just looking the wrong way, or whether that wasn't picked up on camera, but Phillips is back to the pit lane. I'm afraid he's been pushed around a little bit through the last few moments of this race, and he's not going to be very pleased with how that's gone, so he drops down the order. He's been off the road clearly somewhere, and he's in the pit lane at the moment and immediately exits. That is the end of his race, I'm afraid. Might still get points. He did do 50% there, so might well still get points, although I can never remember how many laps you have to complete to actually get points, since it is different in every single series ever done. 50% though is what it is here, and he should be able to get that in terms of points. So that's all good news for Phillips. But not good news is the fact that he's out the race at all. To my surprise, I have to say that Blanchimont has been claiming a few more victims than maybe I was expecting here in this race. The GT, although we did see a little bit of it in the 6 Hours of Spa World Series Endurance Championship race not so long ago, a couple of weekends ago, but even so, a lot of accidents happening through there.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, in higher categories of racing, such as quicker category racing, Blanchimont really isn't much of a corner. It's still kind of a corner in these GT3s, but again, still it's taking a very high speeds, and I guess they are on the limit of their grip capabilities through there. So as soon as they're out of that operating window, very easy for it to all go wrong. Having a look now at Diade Vlaminck to try and hang on to P8 versus Chamorro, and yeah, well, that very easily went very wrong, and amongst all of the carnage and chaos, and well, that is just more added to the long list of incidents that have happened today.
Yeah, wheel-to-wheel contact has sent him straight into the wall. There it is. Oh, and Bosch into the wall. Not entirely sure who to be blamed for that, but know who he'll be blaming. Fortunate for the Porsche driver in the 7 there to lose out on so much, but yeah, certainly damage on that car now, I'm afraid, as Ethan Bass has made his way up to 6 points now because of that issue for Phillips. Will stay out as well. Reynolds comes into the pit lane. Can't be long until we see these guys into the pits from the lead in this one. We've got limited fuel tanks, of course. Normally they'd be able to go the whole way, but limited fuel tanks mean that they certainly cannot. But I'm surprised they're still going, actually. It must be soon when we're making our pit stops here.
Yeah, you would certainly expect, and of course, the longer they go, the less time they have to actually spend in the pit stop stationary, because they've got less fuel to put into the car, because they've got less of the race distance left to go. So it will be a good strategy the longer they can go, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see how that one transpires. Ethan Bass, through this pit stop cycle, has got himself up into a provisional P5. He has got Chris Chatterton just behind his Dandridge and Reiter behind. They both started towards the front end of the grid, of course. Unfortunately have fallen back just a little bit in this race. So we've got 3 drivers in the pit lane: Reynolds, Pale and Patterman. So certainly is crunch time for a lot of these drivers to finally come in to the pit lane. But yeah, as I was expecting, a wide range of decisions amongst this grid in terms of when they come in and when they don't. But yeah, it doesn't change the fact that we've still got a lot of action going on circuit, both on and in the pit lane.
Yeah, we do. Side by side towards R.A.W.S here at the moment, with Dirk Boutz involved, just on the inside there, compromise line, and the Mercedes and the Kia just going to have to run all across the curves there and try and get in the slipstream and get back through again here, quite possibly. Middle of the road, now looking to the outside, should be on his way through here. Just not like the Mercedes has the legs as it does on most cars, to be honest, although not willing to go around the outside there. I think other people are starting to become a little bit fearful of that move around the outside, to be quite honest. It's resulted in quite a lot of incidents, and so people are less willing to do it than they were before.
Live and learn, I suppose. You know, they've seen the carnage that has been ensued during this race, and probably want to take a bit more of a cautious air going for the remainder of it, just to make sure they get to the end, because it can very easily all go very wrong if you're not careful, and Spa especially will bite back. So as long as you are, well, I'm fairly sure it's going to work, you don't want to risk it just for an extra place. You know, 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever, it's only an extra couple of points. You don't want to be throwing away that decent pool of points just for an extra couple more. So it's very much worth just sticking it in and waiting for those high percentage chance moves to come about. And to be fair, there has been quite a few that have gone about. The slipstream and the slingshot has really taken precedence today. So yeah, it's not like you particularly need to go for some, you know, hero or zero moves.
Yeah, up the hill to R.A.W.S. I'm not expecting to see any move here between Copa and Urenga, despite the fact the two of them are. Well, the move is definitely on. It's going to be a bump draft instead between the two RSR cars, and then they're going to fight a little bit later on if indeed it comes to that. If indeed they can get to the leader. Thomas Cope is having his lead slashed at the moment for the 3.5 seconds, but there's not that much time to go. Chris Chatterton also pushing. I think people have realised that they've kind of found drivers around them who are a similar pace at this stage, and actually pushing the driver in front is probably a better idea than trying to overtake them. There's a lot of pit stops now happening now.
Yeah, absolutely, it is all kicking off, especially on track. You can see Costa trying to make up some moves, and all bit of carnage a little bit further back as well. So as you were saying, they've started to calm down just a little bit. You and it all goes back to one in terms, and that was Harry Wills once again, who had a phenomenal race one. Unfortunately, it's all come to blows in race 2. But just look at this train of cars here, and well, that just goes to show well, is just a small little snapshot of the story of race 2 and how it's been. But yeah, well, there's a certain amount of drivers that have sort of branched off into their own little couplets and working together. There's others that are just sitting in these long trains and having a good old fight, a good old scrap about it.
Yes. They certainly are. James Costa in here at the moment, trying to make some moves, and it's still getting very hectic. It involves a couple of pro cars as well. It's all over the place, as you understand, because of the pit stops. The pit lane's so long here, the pro cars find themselves miles behind some of the AMs. Sean Campbell is still behind the top guys in AM at the moment. Is he involved in the fight? I don't think he's involved in this fight, but either way, we've got pit stops now, certainly. For those in the pro category, still going for Oscar Copa. Maybe he's been saving a bit of fuel behind Alex Urenga there, because he's still going. Meanwhile, Cope, Urenga and Mathiasen all in the pit lane. Ethan Bass, Chris Chatterton and Thomas Dandridge also come in. Thomas Reiter will probably be expected to do the same, although he's quite a long way down. Or has he already been in? I don't know. Oh no, there we are. He is into the pit lane now. I just couldn't read his name. There we are. Nice. He's in the pit lane now, though. And Sean Campbell, well, we'll see where he gets to now, because he has been on a real undercut strategy. Pitted ages ago.
Yeah, he has. We'll have to see how where he comes out. And again, two very contrasting strategies. Campbell come in towards the beginning of the pit stop cycle. Cope and Urenga coming in towards the end. And of course, Cope is still yet to come in. So, yeah, well, that'll be an interesting strategy call as we see Stuart Reynolds try and get past Dreyer, practically pushing him through Blanchimont as they head towards the bus stop chicane. These two were fighting sort of 4th and 5th place. Dreyer having to go defensive. Reynolds looking to the left-hand side. Unfortunately, just going to have to tuck in behind, unable to fabricate the move, but going to go for the double under and over. Maybe, as you see, a couple heading their way into the pit lane, and well, already going defensive is Dreyer, having to defend in towards the sword. Reynolds leaving him a wide berth to the left-hand side, wants to open up this corner as much as he can, has to concede the corner, try and get underneath them, but yeah, Dreyer is doing a perfect job of parking that car exactly where it needs to be.
Well, these two, by the way, have already been in, so they are kind of battling over a real position right now. It's 10th as it stands, but where will it be after all of these pit stops? We go on board with Reynolds here right next to the floor. It's Bass on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, excuse me, and this is now going to be for 6th place because of those passes they've just made. Reynolds now is going to have the inside line left wide open to him by Jonas Dreyer there. And I do feel like that Mercedes is suffering from a bit of damage, because he was right near Campbell just before all of this. And now he is dropping outside of the top 5 even more so. He drops to 7th now with Ethan Bass and Chris Chatterton next up to possibly overtake him. Further up the order, Sean Campbell has made his way up to 4th position, but it remains to be seen whether Thomas Cope can hold off Alex Urenga in the final 11 minutes of this race.
The gap has come down to around about 1.5 seconds between the two, as finally Oscar Cope in, I think, to complete the GT3 pro pit cycle. It will be a race against time against Thomas Cope and Alex Urenga. They are still a way back from the pit lane exit, but it is such a long pit lane. You are spending a good time at that pit speed limit. Of course, a good portion of it as well spent stationary, but Alex Urenga on an absolute mission to try and close that gap in 5 laps. He's halved it from between lap 16 and lap 11. 4.7 by lap 11, 2.3 on lap 16. So yeah, really has been on a mission. Just looking at the difference in times there, averaging around about half a second gain per lap. He's been on a mission. Thomas Cope has been trying to do just enough really to keep him at bay, but as the lap dwindle down now, around about 10 minutes left to go in this race. He's got to make sure he's got enough left in his in his mental tank just to try and hang on.
See, Cope is obviously a reasonably experienced driver and he doesn't know what he's doing. With 10.5 minutes to go here, he's going to have a very long 5 laps ahead of him here at Spa. Are we finally going to see a new winner in the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship? We've seen all kinds of different winners in the AM category, but in Pro, it has been very much a case of R.A.W.S winning everything, and Oscar Copa has done a very good job in the pit stops there to maybe even jump Cope immediately. There he is on the right hand side. Cope gives him the room on the pit exit, but Copa can't quite do it. R.A.W.S will get back through on him as well, so it looks like his pit stop was actually exactly the same time, or indeed he lost a bit of time in his in lap, but the three of them now very, very close indeed, and Cope is going to be fearful that he's going to lose not only first but second as well.
Well, it'd still be a podium. Best case scenario, it's worst case scenario, it's P3. Best case scenario, it's the race victory. So, yeah, there's going to be worse days in Thomas Cope's career. But, yeah, that could have been an absolute worldie of a strategy from Oscar Copa. Unfortunately, it's sort of just put him back exactly where he was. But luckily for him, he's fresh out of the pit lane. He's raring to go. He's going to try and get those extra couple of places. A little bit further back the fight amongst the midfield. I think this is for 5th place, or for 6th place. Sorry, this is Drea on the back. Reynolds on the fringes of the top 6. He's got Ethan Bass for company in that Ford GT just behind. But yeah, Thomas Cope has certainly got his work cut out for him. A little bit more still, a quiet race amongst the GT3Ms, especially towards the front, because Matthew Green, no discredit to him, he's done an absolutely phenomenal job out in front.
He has. He's got Jeremy De Boiver just in behind. There he is, just trying to chase down and trying to get that win. De Boiver at the moment slipped to 5th place in the championship after that performance in the first race that saw him, I think, outside the top 10 actually for the first time this season, 11th or 12th by the end. But either way, he's putting in a decent one here at the moment. It is all very close though, very close as well for the win in terms of on the road in the race here between these guys. 4 laps to go when they get to the line, and Thomas Cope is going to be thinking, well, that's just 4 too many for me at the moment. Because how am I going to be able to hold these guys back? The RSR boys are going to try and help each other out as much as they can, you would imagine. And Cope is going to really have his work cut out going towards Lecombe here on lap 19. Only 8 minutes to go now, and Cope is going to be very fearful as to what's to come here. Victor Chamorro has gone off way down the order here, but Thomas, as we're going to see a bit of a replay of it. Let's see what happened. He might have got some help here from one of the BMWs. See, oh no, he's just gone round on his own. One of the BMWs had to avoid him, and into the side of one of the Mercedes. But this is what's happening up the front of the race. This is the important battle between Thomas Cope and R.A.W.S, trying to find a different race winner here in the Pro category. 3 race wins to R.A.W.S so far, trying to make it 4. He goes one way and he switches to the other. He has the inside line into Lecombe, but Thomas Cope defends round the outside, late on the brakes, and he keeps the place.
Good effort there from R.A.W.S just to put this pressure on early, force Thomas Cope into some defensive lines, maybe bait him into a mistake. You can see already filling his mirrors, looking to the right-hand side to try and find a way through. But yeah, Thomas Cope certainly has got his work cut out for him. 2 RSR boys, 2 probably of some of the worst drivers you want behind you, right in tow, especially when they're fighting for the race lead. R.A.W.S wants to keep that 100% record to his name. Thomas Cope wants to edge himself in as a race winner in this series. Going to have a replay as Ethan Bass tries to get past Drea and Reynolds just in front, and it has the Ford GT, the number 52, gone for a bit of a spin, potentially so, and into the pit lane. But yeah, we'd love to see cut back towards the front, because these 3 Lamborghinis, well, it's the battle we've all been waiting for.
It is, and it remains to be seen whether Cope can survive the onslaught from the guys behind for the remaining 3 laps when we get to the line. The odds are very much stacked not in his favour, however. Going to give it his best shot here, even up towards Blanchimont. He does look a little bit threatened right now. R.A.W.S might even try and look to the outside here, or is he just going to push along and try and get away from the rest before having a move? Is it? Are we going to see one at the bus stop chicane, quite possibly? There they come now, the 3 of them almost as one. into the final chicane. Urenga's on the outside going into the first pot, which will give him the inside for the second, but Cope is not going to allow him to have that. Oh, Urenga's squeezed out. Cope was aggressive in the defence there, and it's only going to rile up the guys behind as Oscar Cope gets alongside him as well. You get the feeling he's going to back out towards the source, and he does, but that might just give him a little bit of breathing space he needs into Les Combes this time around.
Potentially so. It all depends on this exit right here, and it doesn't seem that Urenga's got the particularly best one, as Cope is a lot closer to his teammate than Urenga is to the race leader of Thomas Cope. And while they are still working together, it's not going to be ideal if they get bogged down, tripping over each other. And that's exactly what Thomas Cope wants, is to just try and feed Urenga to try and trip over his teammate. Oscar Cope has got a phenomenal exit through the Camel Kick. Is he going to push him? As you can see, Urenga going defensive, trying to keep the slipstream of Cope in front. And it does seem the two RSR guys are going to keep themselves working together. As Oscar Cope backs out, they do not want to lose the toe. They've been working so hard for it. Pretty much over half of this race has been spent trying to get to this moment onto the back of Thomas Cope, and the pressure still not has been alleviated. It's not over just yet.
Certainly isn't. There's a long way to go yet in this race, especially if you're Thomas Cope defending out front. The gap behind is over 6 seconds to Sean Campbell, so there's nothing to worry about in that respect. It is purely focused on this top three at this moment. All eyes will be towards these guys, especially those who maybe in the US version of the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship. Maybe just watching along to see how the EU guys are tackling this one at the moment. Of course, coming up later on in about 3 hours' time here. But at the moment, it's Thomas Cope who's looking to try and end this streak of wins for Alex Urenga. At the moment, it's 3 out of 3, trying to make it 4 out of 4, and at the moment can't get through as Didier de Vlaminck has gone off the road coming out of La Source there. But he's down outside the top 10 in the AM category, long way down. Just trying to make a move on one of the Mercedes here. Very narrow line on the entry to La Source. Oh, it's too late on the brakes, and oh dear, goes slamming into one of the Lamborghinis. He's going to be very, very unimpressed with that. Thomas Cope, though, on the defensive once again as Alex Urenga tries to make a almost carbon copy move to what we saw here last lap around. Thomas Cope doesn't dive it as deep under brakes as he did last lap around, but it's worked out all the same. All of these attempts from Alex Urenga to make the move into the bus stop chicane are almost stopping him from going through at Les Combes.
Yeah, they are very much futile as he just goes in a bit too deep. He nearly ran himself off the track, and that again, if Oscar Cope was really interested in trying to find a way through, he certainly would be able to. And Urenga needs to work on these mistakes. He's running out of laps. He can't make that mistake much more often in towards the bus stop chicane. He needs to get this move done and dusted towards Les Combes. That's going to be his best bet. He can't tarnish that run towards the source, and because he's only got one corner to gain that time back, and it's not a lot. As you can see, Cope is pushing his teammate. Cope weaving right and left just to try and break that hole in the air that he's punching for Urenga and Cope. The gap closing a lot. Is Urenga going to launch one to the inside? He's closed the gap back up, but no real opportunity as they navigate their way through the right-left of Les Combes in towards Malmedy, and Cope still just keeping him at an arm's width away just to be able to maintain that gap, not having to go too defensive, but still very well and truly there, Urenga and Cope, just to put enough pressure on. But yeah, how long can Cope sit behind and wait while his teammate fails at the attempts?
So he's making harder work of it than I thought he might, as James Slates is clearly having problems here. I think he's going to be in the pit lane in a minute. There he is. He's just making a pit stop. There it is. Just a little bit further down. This is further up towards the front though. Thomas Cope still trying to defend right now. It's Urenga very much applying the pressure. As I said, Urenga making a bit harder work of this than I was expecting him to. I really thought this battle would be done very quickly, but Cope is defending well, and Urenga, in my opinion, is attacking in the wrong places here, i.e. into the bus stop chicane, whereas he should be waiting for the Les Combes, but he's not got much time to decide now. He's only got 2 more attempts into the bus stop chicane and 1 final one into Les Combes. Let's see which one he decides to use here. Or is it going to be all 3? Let's see. Into Blanchimont it's going to be. Neither of the above. Thomas Cope is going to have to hang this one round the outside. Oh, there's contact. Cope goes into the wall spectacularly. The Lamborghini surely will try and recover and get what he can from this one, but a real great defence of that lead is going to come to an end dramatically as Alex Urenga gets into the side of him. Oh, did he leave enough room? Did Urenga get into the side of him? I have to say, Urenga has not left him any room there. Cope has tried to hang it around the outside and stay within the white lines. And in my opinion, Urenga has left him no room on the outside. Cope has ended up in the wall spectacularly.
It's always going to be tricky through Blanchimont, isn't it? Because the car is already at its limit of grip. Thomas Cope, look at how close they got to contact, even just going through. Taking a look in slow motion, Urenga is on the inside, is well and truly alongside. Is right to be there. Thomas Cope, it's a tricky corner to go around the outside of. Of course, it's on Urenga to try and give him a car's width on the outside. A bit of a slide, though, from Cope. And yeah, I think it's that slide that then dominoed into that bit of contact. If he didn't slide, it'd have been a bit of a better angle for him to make contact with, and it probably wouldn't have been as dramatic as that. But yeah, you're very right in saying that Urenga probably could have left a little bit more, and in doing so has in fact cost himself the race lead. He's back to square one as Cope gets himself into the race lead on this penultimate lap. A little bit further back, you can see Reiter on the back of Chatterton with Dandridge just behind the Audi. Going to look to go to the left-hand side of his fellow Audi. Reiter, all very close to contact between the two, and Dandridge wants to find a way through as well.
Yeah, Urenga didn't give car width for me. It doesn't matter how far alongside he is on the entry to the corner for me. If he's alongside at all, he needs to be given room by Cope, and he absolutely was. And if you're making the move on the inside line, you absolutely have to give room to the car on the outside line on the exit, and that didn't happen, in my opinion, at all. So, yeah, there we are. This is Victor Chamorro making the slowest pit exit you've ever seen, and I don't know why. But anyway, Oscar Cope might well take this race win. Is he going to be challenged by Urenga, or is he going to be handed the win? What's going to happen between these two? We're coming towards the line now for the final time, and over the line, who is going to be taking the win here? Surely he's not going to go through Blanchimont and try and make a move here again. He might well learn from his slight error on the last occasion here. Through Blanchimont they go. Is Urenga going to really make a move for this one? They are teammates after all, but it does look like they're going to slightly fight over this one. Oscar Cope defends to the inside a little bit, but Alex Urenga has no interest on going through, and he's going to hand this win almost to Oscar Cope. We finally do have a different winner here in the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship in Season 3. It's going to be a different winner. It's going to be Oscar Cope who comes over the line to win ahead of Alex Urenga. Sean Campbell rounds out an RSR 1-2-3. As meanwhile behind Machason and Reynolds are going to come over to complete the top 5. Thomas Cope will finish in 6th, but who's going to finish in 8th position? Thomas Reiter looks like it's going to be, holds on the inside line, and he keeps the place ahead of Chris Chatterton. Late drama there, and very much late controversy as well.
Well, it's not the first time we've had some drama on the last lap here at Spa, is it, Ewan? And well, Spa never disappoints at all. As Jeremy De Boiver is going to come across the line to take his second win in the GT3 AM. Of course, Matthew Green, a dominant run in the first stint, has really fallen back in this second one, down to P3. It seems, but Jeremy De Boiver, of course, having a much better day in the office than his son, but always good to win on home soil, and well, he's only got a couple more corners left to do that, and well, making amends for what has been a pretty poor race one, and well, yeah, certainly deserved winner today.
Yeah, here he is. Boiver makes his way through the final couple of corners. No idea where the previous leader went, or who it was, because my memory is fantastic, but there we are. De Boiver makes his way over the line, and he will take the win here, maybe even a championship lead, although he is quite a few points back at this stage after that first race, 19 points back, so he'd do well to get the lead off Ivo Linden, who comes across the line there in second place, only having lost 4 points to De Boiver, so might well extend that championship lead once again, with Matthew Green, the previous leader, dropping down to third at the end. Ethan Bass, I'm afraid, 13th by the end. Not entirely sure how he dropped so far down, but either way he did so. So the final drivers go over the line. A couple of good races though there at Spa, and finally a different winner as well in the overall, which is maybe a bit of a surprise to see. But Urenga was not victorious and may well find himself with a bit of a penalty afterwards as well. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, it will be to the discretion of the stewards what they make of it. Of course, yeah, things happen, but you do have to do everything in your effort to be able to run side by side cleanly. Of course, the desperation penultimate lap, side by side for the race lead, boarding down, but again, still no excuse for slightly careless driving. And well, of course, it wasn't helped by Thomas Cope's slight mistake that probably put him at a bit of an awkward angle. But still, you have to argue that contact probably shouldn't have happened in the first place. But again, the stewards will take a much thorough look at it and decide after the race. But either way, it was a fantastic couple of races. Race 1 and race 2 both proved to be just absolutely insane, and while it does seem to be yet another RSR 1-2-3, it still doesn't tell the whole story of what happened today.
Oscar Cooper takes the win then ahead of a RSR 1-2-3 with Urengo and Campbell rounding out the podium. Matthijssen was 4th ahead of Stuart Reynolds. Thomas Cope eventually came across the line in 6th. Fiona Strayer was 7th ahead of Thomas Wrighty, who held off Chris Chatterton and Thomas Jandrid for that place. That rounds out the top 10. They were ahead of Felix Pearl and Michael Putterman inside of a minute of the leader. Ethan Bass in the end really fell away, the final car on the lead lap. In the AM category, Jeremy De Boiver was the winner by 2.5 seconds ahead of Ivo Linden, who came through the field well there. Matthew Green lost those couple of places towards the end. He was 3rd ahead of Timothy Vanderbroek in 4th. Thomas Pugh rounds out the top 5 with James Costa, race 1 pole sitter, ending out this race in 6th place. Dirk Bouts was 7th ahead of Gus Franken in 8th. Timo McKeown in 9th, and Dominic Goodsell rounding out your top 10. David Camano was 11th ahead of Vladimir Helibay. Stefan Schuster was in the 13th position ahead of Ashraf El Haddad, and Jorge Ferrer was in that final position on the lead lap there. That is going to do it from us here, though, at the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Challenge. I don't have time for interviews here today, unfortunately, but a couple of great races here at the Spa-Francorchamps. It's been fantastic to everybody who has joined in here in terms of watching along here this afternoon, and make sure you tune into the race a little bit later this evening. In exactly 3 hours time we'll be live for the US version of this championship. It's exactly the same but with the more US drivers, so make sure you tune in for that. It's going to be very entertaining indeed. For now though, I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Zach Sweeney and David Christie behind the cameras. For now, it's goodbye for now.